Subscribe to Serving It Raw.
Yes, Lord.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Everybody wanna be a boss, but don't nobody ever wanna take a loss. But if you a hustler, you can get it back. 10 toes down, let the paper stack. That's why I keep it pussy, concentrate on my dog. Right now it's our heartstrings. Never let a headache get close to a chain. Calculators and money counters, all I need.
Hey man, CIRV'N Raw, goddammit.
All right, you done tapped into Serving It Raw podcast. I am your host, Gutter Kane, the Gutter Man, aka the Pyrex Iron Chef. And I got a special guest in here today for this episode. He is a philanthropy journalist and freelance culture writer in LA. He writes currently for OK Player. And I've checked out a few of his stories. But I want to welcome to the show, Ade. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Already. Now, how do you pronounce your last name?
Oh man, that's another one. Adeniji. It's like it's Ade, then it's Adeniji. Both A-D.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to fuck that up. So
It's all good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I've checked out a few of your articles, man, and I think that I think you're one of those writers that do real good research. When I read the one that I'm actually finna talk about with you, but I was able to go back and read the one that you did on the original sound of G-Funk.
Oh yeah. Above the law, yeah.
Above the law, as well as your picks on the 17 greatest G-Funk songs. So I thought that was nice. It had a lot of them on there that I really, that raised me.
A couple of people got heated about some of my choices. That was funny.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess because I didn't have Dre and Warren number 1 and number 2, maybe.
I can see that, but the thing is that the ones that you did pick, they're like the most popular, but I felt like you dug deeper into the actual G-Funk sound, the originality of it.
Yep.
And so when you talk about the originality of it, then you got King T, you're gonna with the dipping, and then you have technically the Above the Law call it. I didn't even see Call It What You Want on there.
Yeah. It's funny. I always prefer. I mean, I love that song, but VSOP I think is one of the greatest G-Funk songs of all time. People completely slept on that song.
That's what's up.
Lyricism and it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But I checked out the articles, man, and I think, like I said, I think you're a phenomenal writer. I like how you like I said, go through, do your research. But the article I really want to dive into is the one that you just recently put out, which was the unsung hook singers of 90s classics, 90 rap classics.
Okay? For sure.
All right, and so I just want to get your take on the research that you did, as far as like your conversation with Shatasha Williams, who did the chorus for Thuggish Ruggish, which happens to be my cousin, and Nanci Fletcher. And then Shauna D, and then Crystal Johnson, as well as I have an honorable mention, and I just wanted to see, did you happen to later on, I want to see if you happen to, if she's somebody that you kind of thought about maybe adding.
Okay. Yeah,
tell me. Just to see, but how was the like, what made you decide to, like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna write this article?
Oh, it's kind of just riding the momentum, like you said, of that earlier piece I did on Call It What You Want. I just started pitching my editor, and I'm like, I want to do something about like all these, unsung singers on like these 90s West Coast. So originally it was just going to be like strictly West Coast, because that's my like bread and butter. But then we was talking and like, man, why should it be limited? Let's talk about like the whole hip hop, East, West, Midwest. So I just started reaching out to people. The first person I actually connected with pretty quickly was Nanci Fletcher, because I've been following her for a long time. Love her appearances. I always feel like she's been on the level like a Michelle or a Jewel, but people just don't know. She just doesn't have the same household name recognition. But she's been on like featuring like 80 songs. Like she was super big back in those days.
Has
And
it
you,
been 80 songs?
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. She used to braid Snoop's hair back in the day too. So she was really like she was there for sure.
Okay.
So it started with that. And after we probably talked, the first call we had, we probably talked like 4 hours. It was a super long conversation, chopping up on because she's a New Yorker like me. So we were talking about that for a while. And then like it just became like really a really good conversation. And at the end, she's like, do you know that there's actually not Jewel who sang on What's My Name, Snoop Doggy Dogg? It's this other woman. What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, this woman, Shayna D, she's like in the church. She just went down to like death row one day. They used their voice. Like, you should talk to her. Like, she's trying to like sort of get her name out there now. You should talk to her now. So she gave me her name, talked to Shayna. She's from Carson, California, outside LA. Crazy. Like she just went. So yeah,
that's a jewel. That's
yeah.
That's a jewel from Jewel. Rest in
Exactly.
peace. But yeah, because that's a jewel from Nanci, but rest in peace to Jewel. But yeah, I didn't know that. I thought that was Jewel on that chorus.
For sure. For sure. So it was like early on as I was even starting to write it, it's like, oh shit, I'm already learning all this stuff. So from Shayna D, I'm okay, let me get some East Coast in there. So that's how I connected with Crystal Johnson. Same way, just through IG. We've hung out a few times. When I was back East for a couple of months, I met up with her. She's super chill, true New Yorker, true hustler.
She from New York?
Yeah, she's from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, yeah. She's never left Brooklyn. And then, it's funny with Shatasha, it's like it was really hard for me to find her. Like initially I was just like on Facebook, on Twitter. It was some article maybe, I don't know, 7-8 years ago that they did on her, but otherwise it was like, I don't know, the social media presence was tough. But then I just started looking at hashtags on Instagram. And then that's how I think your name was, or your account tagged her in one of your posts.
Yeah.
So that's why I just hit you up and, thanks again for connecting us. But
oh shit,
that's sort of rounded up. There are a few other people I wanted to talk to, I didn't. There's another woman. I don't know if you know this, but the woman who sang on "Summertime," Will Smith, was from Johnny. It was Jean Bailey.
Yes, I never heard of her.
Yeah, from Johnny back in the day. So there were a couple more that I wanted to talk to, but I plan on doing more of these. But for the initial 4, these were like the 4 that I was able to connect with.
Okay, now in your interview of them, one thing that I kind of kept noticing in the article was that they kept pointing out how they didn't get credit for their vocals on a lot of these songs. And so I just did they go in details of like what maybe they could have done differently, and or for somebody else that's up and coming that maybe might end up running into that situation. Did they say anything about like, hey, I wish I would have done this and this and this or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think overall it's a good lesson on like, there's the creative side, but then there's the business side. Okay. And I think at the very beginning of hip hop, in fact, sort of when I was talking to Hutch from Above the Law, a similar thing where like everything was just so informal. And like you didn't want to be the one weird guy in the room or gal in the room asking too many questions. It's sort of like you were taking a leap of faith. They're like, hey, we'll take care of you, we'll take care of you, we'll take care of you. But a lot of these women were, they didn't have a manager, they didn't have an agent. In the case of Shayna D, she was 18, she was a freshman in college who was like who just came down on a whim to the studio. Like there was no real protection. So
everything was like word of mouth.
Huh? Yeah.
So everything was like a word of mouth.
Exactly. So I think the only woman who didn't have anything like crazy happen was Crystal Johnson. I think part of that is because she comes from a very musical family. Her uncle was a soul singer. Actually, they sampled this song for Jada's "We Gonna Make It," and then her cousins were from the Gap Band. Sorry, the cousin's father was from the Gap Band. Yeah, Ronnie Wilson. So for her, I think she sort of grew up in that environment. She knew what questions to ask. She was protected. So I think that's part of the reason why she kind of fared better than some of the other ones.
Oh, okay.
Nanci did Lottie Dottie.
Okay.
She did Keep Your Heads Ringing. She did Round and Round, the chorus on the Twins.
Yeah, with the Twins. I know she did I Shot the Sheriff for...
I Shot the Sheriff.
For Orangey.
Yeah, she did some stuff, some background on like 21 Jump Street. She was all over that Murder Was the Case soundtrack and Above the Rim. She did some work with Blackjack up in the Bay. Living for the Day was the name of the track. I actually love that track. No one really knows that track, but it's a great beat. And then she did a bunch of uncredited stuff with Snoop. I didn't really get into this in the article, but she had like a lot to say about those days because she went down to the California Love music video. And Pac brought Madonna. Pac was dating Madonna at the time.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. She talk about that.
You know, she's basically like, man, like it's crazy that ahead of the, in a way, Pac was like ahead of his time. Like, how can I put this? Like some of the other dudes in the room are like, wait, well, who's this? Who's this woman? Who's this random woman in the studio? Because hip hop didn't really know her like that at that time. But for some reason, Tupac saw something in her and saw something in bringing her into that world that even like Snoop and Dre didn't see.
Okay, because see the issue. See a lot of things that. Okay, the only thing that confuses me sometimes with Nanci.
Yeah.
Nanci Fletcher's contributions and choruses. I always get her mixed up with my honorable mention.
Who's this?
Natasha Walker.
That
was the honorable mention.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Did she run a special radar?
I tried to connect with her too. Nanci put me in touch with her, but she just wasn't available. But
okay,
back in the day, they were in a group together. We're in this group called Lipstick in like 1990. They did a song for the soundtrack for White Men Can't Jump.
Okay.
They had this group, and they demoed for Dre back in those days too, but the timing wasn't right. The managers didn't get along or whatever. But yeah, that's funny you mentioned that.
Okay. Yeah. That I don't know what it is, but I always get Nanci and Natasha mixed up on a lot of, because I just feel like Tupac's earlier stuff, from that going into Death Row as well as Death Row, it was always Nanci and Natasha. You know what I'm saying? So I just like sometimes I be getting them mixed up when it comes to names and stuff. But yeah.
Actually, I might have messed that up. I don't think they were in Lipstick together, but they were in. Remember when I talked about the whole thing with Barry White?
Now I know Natasha was in a group called YMV.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Natasha Walker was in a group called YMV.
Okay.
And then she started doing like a lot of courses for Tupac when he was part of Thug Life.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, when he created the group. So so I know about that, but I didn't know that they were in a group together or anything like that.
Yeah. Or at least they auditioned together. I'll put it that way. Yeah. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. So when what other like now? How did you get started into doing articles and stuff like this? Like, how did you get
the music ones or just writing in general?
I would probably say music.
The music ones actually just started like the beginning of the year. Funny enough, like at the start of the pandemic, I was always doing sort of this philanthropy writing, and at the start of the pandemic, I'm like, oh shoot, like I want to do some stories about music. I want to do, because I have like all these like random interests, and so I'm like, okay, why not? And especially because I feel like you said before, like all those details about G-Funk, like I'm obsessed with that stuff. So just really wanted to kind of do more of the writing I wanted to do, and just started pitching some stuff around.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, who did you grow up listening
to? So I had like sort of these. I have a Nigerian father and like an old school mom from Mississippi, and so I wasn't allowed to listen to hip hop for a while. I remember the first CD I bought was Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z.
Okay.
But then after a while, I don't know, I just quickly fell into like West Coast. Like I always found that sound to be better. Like it's more laid back, it's more musical. And so quickly it was Dre, it was Snoop, Warren G, and then really fell in love with Quick. And he's someone who, whenever he plays in LA, I'm always there because he's a genius.
Yes, I give you that. Salute to DJ Quick. Just Like Compton is actually one of my favorite songs.
Exactly. Yeah. People sleep on that one too.
That's one of my favorite. I'm talking about. That's one of my favorite songs of all time. Like,
yeah, I know. No, it's great.
So, Oh, okay. So what do you have any things that you're working on now, like writing for OK Player?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I have in the works. Something I want to do about the connections between house and hip hop, because people always, first of all, like I wasn't even a big house head for a while because I never thought black folk were involved in it like that. Like that was my own ignorance. But
Hold on, you talking about the genre house?
yeah, house, yes, the
Like
genre house,
like
exactly.
Queen Latifah's.
Queen Latifah and Robin
Um,
S. and all those folks.
you
But
know, it's crazy because the song I'm thinking about it. I want to bring up to you. It's a house song. Uh, it's on one of my playlists. I listen to it when I'm doing cardio at the gym. It's
I want to be talking about. You
I
might
think
be
it's
talking.
coming to my house.
Come into my house. Yeah, I figured that's what you meant. Yeah,
Okay, but you're talking about that like that type of music.
exactly. But
Okay,
then these DJs who sort of went back and forth between house and hip hop. People like Terry Hunter,
okay.
Chicago, who actually I didn't even know he did that new Beyonce song, "Unbreak My Soul."
Uh,
Yeah. Anyway, it's like some Beyonce song from last year, I guess.
it is okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But folks like that, David Morales, they were people that really DJ'd the house scene, but also produced a lot of hip hop too. And I didn't know they were like such connections like that. So
Okay, I
still in the
know
early stages of
45 King was a producer that kind of did that too.
yeah, yeah,
So,
man, there's plenty. So I'm sort of in the early stages of that, but that's one thing I wanted to explore. And I'm also doing something on DJ Glaze, Filipino DJ from the 80s who founded Fosum. Uh, and that famous lyric from Dr. Dre and Snoop's Ain't Nothing But a G Thing. Perfection is perfect, I'm gonna let them understand. That is a reference to Fosum. Back in the day, they were called Perfection. It was like maybe 20 or 30. It was a huge collective.
uh-huh.
Domino was part of the group. Domino back in the day was bigger than Snoop. He was the first big Long Beach rapper before Snoop.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Everybody know Domino.
And so Domino left and Snoop came on to collaborate with Fosum. And so it was a diss track. Let them understand perfection. Right. And then that diss continues and Snoop and Dre's, perfection is perfect. I'm gonna let them understand.
Uh-huh.
So that's all because of DJ Glaze, really. So I've been
Okay.
talking to him, and I want to do a story about his contributions to G Funk and West Coast rap.
Okay, so you digging deep into
Yeah.
okay. Hey man, like I said, like man, I gotta salute you, bro. 'Cause like I said, man, like like I said, when I read the article that you just did, you know, wrote down word for word what they said to you, on the phone. Like you could just kind of tell it. Like you didn't add anything to try to make certain shit seem a certain type of way, man. And I know a lot of times that's what makes a lot of artists not want to do like interviews and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to get misquoted and shit, man. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're doing is really phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I had to. I was like, yeah, man, I really gotta really dig deep and see. Was there anything else that you yourself got out of the interviews that you did with these artists?
Uh,
Like, was
and
there anything else that you make that maybe you didn't know? Because like you just gave me some stuff that I didn't know, like about Folsom. Say I didn't know about that situation. So you kind
yeah,
of like when it comes to hip hop, man, it's a constant. Oh shit, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that.
yep, yep.
So
I don't know. For me, it's like people always talk about how where hip hop came from, how it came out of soul and R&B and older forms of black music, but you don't even think about how that might play out, like because like in the 80s and 90s, these legendary R&B and soul singers, they were still around.
yeah,
In the case of like when Nanci Fletcher was telling me about Barry White, she got connected to hip hop through Barry White. Barry White was making trying to make a comeback in the early 90s. And so on a whim, she goes to this singing audition, dresses up, dances, and she's one of the background singers that's picked to tour the world with Barry White. So when they come back from this year-long tour, you know, okay, we're trying to get Barry White sort of plugged into hip hop. Why don't you do a collab with Big Daddy Kane? And so that is the first hip hop track that Nanci Fletcher was involved in. But it was because, in a way, of like soul and R&B, that earlier generation of Black music that hip hop was also able to attach itself to. People always think about it in terms of the sound, but it's deeper than that. It's the figures. It's the actual people that sort of pass the baton, if you will. At least that's how I see it.
Okay. Now, well, what do you think the issue is right now when it comes to hip hop? Because I get asked this question a lot about where somebody asked me where did it shift, and so one thing that I saw that I really connected was I was watching Math Hoffa's podcast, and they had Ed Love on there. And he was talking about how it made more of an impact for us when you actually went to a store specifically to buy a CD compared to now where it's just streaming. And so do you feel like the internet has hurt or helped hip hop at all?
I think both. It's so accessible, but it's so like oversaturated. Like,
okay,
it's quantity. Is the quality there like it was? You know, me, I'm always one of those snobs that's like I don't listen to hip hop after like I don't know 2005. But you know, even if you're not one of those people, you have to admit there's just so much out there, and it's the same with anything else. Like movies too. You might say there's some great movies. You might say there's a whole bunch of terrible movies, just because there's just so much out there. Like,
okay.
I think it's good in the sense that up and coming artists could just put something on Bandcamp or put something on SoundCloud. They're good to go. But in terms of quality, I don't know. It's all over the place.
I don't feel like the quality's there either. No. And the fact that there's like no more A&Rs to be able to be like, nah, you know, the quality is low. You need to do this, or it's like more like a microwave type of music. I just feel, I'm not gonna say it's hurting the culture, but I don't really know the direction that it's going in. You know.
Neither, man.
Yeah, I don't know the direction, and it's kind of getting me for a little loop here. But
I don't know. It is up where you are, but in LA too, I noticed that in terms of the venues that actually play hip hop, that's really gone way down. Like, I don't hear it as much in the clubs anymore. It's really weird. You know, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Even compared to like 10 years ago when I was just getting out of college. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, see, that's yeah. But I know we're still trying. We're still trying to get it. What's the other artist that you're now? One thing I did notice too about your article is that you had females. Where was that the only thing that you were focused on?
Yeah. For that one, that was all just female singers. You know, I've been thinking about some of those other. Because the funny thing, after Nate Dogg, there are other, you know, male singers too. Of course, it's just.
Yeah, I got one in my head.
I mean, Mike Marshall. I've spoken to him.
Okay.
You know, I got 5 on it, but when I tried to pitch that around, the timing didn't seem right. But people like that. Funny enough.
What about Kokane?
Yeah, Kokane. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I know you just did. Yeah, I saw that.
yeah. I haven't interviewed him yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No, but it's in the process. He's actually in Washington, and so I got to go up to. He's up in Tacoma, so I have to go. Yeah, I have to go up to Tacoma and get the interview with him. But he's been promoting about 3 different things going on. He has the Kokane CD. Then he had the one that he just dropped. Which I think was the White Album. And then he has the Sugarcane album that he just dropped with Sugar Free. So he's bouncing back and forth and doing videos and stuff like that. So, I just have to find a chance to catch up with him. But I have Latoya Williams.
Yep.
Which she's another prop, but you said 90s. I think
90s.
Yeah, Latoya kind of.
There's someone who also DM'd me on Twitter. She's like, "Oh, if you ever want to do a 2000s one, hit me up." I'm trying to remember her name, but yeah, it could be like an extended series for sure. Because early 2000s had some great hooks too, for sure.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I got a few. But yeah, Kokane was one of the ones that came up on the male side.
No, Kokane is great.
Yeah, who else was you thinking about?
He's more obscure, but this dude Ephraim Galloway up in the Bay. He sang on "Do G's Go to Heaven?" That was his big one. Richie Rich from back in the day.
Yeah, hold on.
This other dude, Bo Rock. I'm sure you know Bo Rock.
Is it the one that's on? Hold on. Is that's on the CD with the veteran?
The veteran, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
got the veteran, yeah. And also Bo Rock.
What do you do? I'm more with songs when it comes.
He sang for like Fosum. He sang for Twins. Those were his two big ones. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pull him up. I don't think I listened to the whole Twins album.
Okay. Oh man, that's one of the best G-Funk albums of all time.
Yeah, I haven't listened to all the songs on there.
Warren killed it.
See, the thing that I have so much music and songs in my head, it's like as soon as you tell me a name, I can kind of get it. If not, if you tell me the name of a song or something, or I can get everything. I'm like, okay, yeah, I heard it. You know, but yeah, it's so much playing in my head. It's a shame. Yeah, it's just as a kid, man. My dad used to take me to the mall. Actually, I mean not the mall, but he used to take me on base. When I was in Shreveport, he would take me on base, man, and he would be like, buy a CD, and I would just grab stuff that if I couldn't find stuff that I like just automatically knew, I would grab stuff, just like, oh, I don't, it's like a tight cover, let me get this, and I grab it, and then listen to it, and then I would just try to go back and get I was, back then it's like for us, we looked all in the cover and the credits and the coming soons and all that, and so it went from that to, stuff that was associated with that label, and stuff like that. So I went from that, like, I bought you remember Lil Rick?
Yeah.
From the Bay. He was from Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond. Yeah. So
I bought his CD one day, Armageddon. He had dropped that on AWOL. So it went from that to Sebo's album that he dropped, the final chapter, and then Marvelous. And then it was Killer Tay, and then Lunatic before it was Looney Coleon. You see what I'm saying? Like it would progress to that. And then I did that with everything. I did it with Death Row, I did it with No Limit, I did it with Cash Money. And then after that, then you start going back, after Furious Five, like what I'm saying, you go all the way back to like the 80s and stuff like that, then start coming back up and working your way up and shit. So it was like that, man. So
that's what I did with G-Funk too when I first, because I went to college out in LA. And once I got here, like it was like CD on CD on CD, and it was like, it's funny the way, like, how do you experience that nowadays? Like you don't get to even like touch the album or touch the CD and look through the credits. Like it's a totally different, like it's a different experience now,
Yes. So. Yeah. Now the 17 greatest G-Funk article that you wrote, those are your 17?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked those.
Got it.
And actually, it's kind of cool because some of those songs, like, I'm actually really grateful because the one I picked at 17, Friday, it's this group called Hostile that was involved with Lil Half Dead, who was like super underrated from back in the days, from Long Beach. But Hostile was a duo, and they kind of were featured on Lil Half Dead. And then they had a demo album maybe it was called Friday. I don't know exactly. Let's say call it demo. But the song Friday Night, I'm telling you, that's one of the greatest G-Funk songs of all time. Produced by Chodo Track Productions, which was actually DJ Quick's first producer. I didn't even know this.
Shit. No, I did
Yeah,
not know that one.
I know that. No, it's crazy. And so that song started blowing up on Twitter on YouTube a couple of years ago because Larry June sampled it.
Okay, you said
But
it's
it was
called
still,
it's called Friday Nights.
what is it called? Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it's called. I'll get it to you. But
Okay.
anyway, now, like since my article, now that thing has over 1 million views on YouTube. So it's been cool to see how some of these tracks were like almost at 1 million or kind of a little bit below. But now since my article, like people are like, oh shoot, like this song's crazy. Like, man, like what a gem and things like that. So I think that's really why I write, especially about music, to raise awareness about these songs for sure.
No, that's what's up, man. So what is the day's top 5
of G-Funk?
Well, I already know your top 5 of G-Funk.
Yeah.
The 5 it would be from the 17. No, I'm talking about your top 5 rappers, your top 5 favorite rappers.
Yeah.
Dead or alive.
Quick.
All right.
Pac.
Okay.
Shoot, this is tough, man. I'm gonna say Most Def.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Shit.
I did not see that one. I did not see it.
Man.
That's 3. So you got a
3. Shoot. Kendrick.
Well, hold on. You said Quick, Pac, Most Def,
Kendrick.
Kendrick.
That's 4, right?
4.
5. Put a gun to my head. I don't know. Shoot. E40.
40.
I'm gonna say E40.
Man, look. Look. Hey, speaking of 40, I'm gonna tell you the craziest shit that just happened. Hey, look, I was at my homeboy house, and he got this. It's like his son, but this kid that comes over all the time, man, and I love him. I ain't even gonna say his name because I don't want to embarrass him too bad. But look, we was watching the Nate Diaz fight last night.
Oh God.
And in the within the fight, they showed the E40 was at the fight. So so they put the camera on E40, and he looks at me and my homeboy and he says, "Is that Biggie?" And we looked at him, we was like, "What?" And he was like, "Hey, isn't that Biggie Smalls?" And I was like, in my mind, I was like, damn, I thought I had heard it all at that point, but I was like, oh my God. And then he got up and he was like, you know what? I think I need to go outside and smoke. But yeah, man. But yeah, I was like, boy, that shit crazy. But yeah, but the reason why I brought that story up was because he's younger though. He's like 20, like 21, 22.
Mm.
So it makes sense why you're going back and doing a lot of this stuff, and saying, and interviewing people like Nanci Fletcher and Shatasha Williams and Shauna D and all them, because a lot of times they don't know about these, about these artists.
Yeah.
And true enough, a lot of people didn't know, like, Shatasha was on the Mary Jane song. She was
on that.
Yeah, see, she was on that, but she was also on Get Your Thug On.
Oh, she didn't even mention that to me. I didn't know.
Yes. See, at which, when I read the article, I was like, oh, she didn't tell him.
Yeah.
If you go to the Art of War, the Bone Art of War album, go to the song. It's Wishbone's. I think it might be somebody else in it, but I think it was like his solo song. But she sings the chorus on that song.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like I said, man, Nanci Fletcher and Crystal Johnson, man, a lot of them have contributed to hip hop, where it's like, if you take those, like, as much as people like to downplay their contribution, if you take those people off of those songs, I don't think it would hit the same way.
Exactly.
So exactly. But yeah, man, I want to give you your flowers, bro, for what you're doing. I hope you get a lot of success. You know what I'm saying? And just I just want you to keep pushing, man. And anytime we can, connect on anything and do another episode, you know what I'm saying? You're more than welcome, bro. Anytime, man. Wonderful conversation, bro.
I'm glad we connected. I appreciate it. Shatasha was great. We actually talked. I think I was driving my way to Phoenix, but we talked for a good amount of time, and she was super cool too. So I really appreciate that as well.
All righty. Well, hey, you can let people know how to reach you and how to check out your articles.
Yeah, for sure. So my website is my full name, Adeniji, ADE, then again, ADENIJI.com. I'm on IG, AdeB87, ADEB87. And then if you just search OK Player and my name, comes up. I got plenty more in the works with them. Been pitching some stuff to some other publications. So excited to do some more of these stories about, like, you know, the hip hop that I grew up in the early and late 90s. So
that's what's up. That's what's up. Well, hey man, I thank you for taking the time, man, to do the interview with me. You know what I'm saying? And but yeah, man, send me any articles, man, that you do, man. Send them my way, bro. You know,
I will, brother. I appreciate your time.
I enjoyed your work, man. I enjoy your work and your writing, man. It's phenomenal, bro.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure. All right, well, hey, I'm gonna let you go, man, and you have a good rest of your day.
For sure. You too, brother.
All right.
Great.
Just make sure the coke fire. Told the jeweler cut some links and bring the gold higher. He wanna shoot it, he hot-headed, he ghost rider. Send him through your shit like Robin Givens with the old iron. Swinging, fork in the glass pot clanking. Holding the boat, they ship sinking. I make one brick, two without blinking. They was sleeping, now I got them rethinking shit.